Picture this: Paul Kalanithi, a brilliant, idealistic neurosurgeon in training, stands in the sterile operating room at Stanford, gripping a delicate brain instrument. The patient's life hangs in balance as Paul's hands perform a dance that could mean everything or nothing. Now imagine the ground shifting beneath him. He gets diagnosed with stage IV lung cancer. Suddenly, the healer becomes the sick. The future evaporates into a tense, uncertain now. How do you hold on to meaning when your own life is slipping through your fingers? Hold that thought. We're diving deep into the life Paul wrestled to live, and what it truly means to breathe in those final moments. Paul's journey isn't just about medicine. It's about identity and purpose crashing headlong into mortality. What does it feel like to switch from doctor to patient overnight? Let's step into his shoes. In early 2013, 36-year-old Paul Kalanithi is operating in Stanford's neurosurgery unit, meticulously removing a tumor from a young patient's brain. The hum of the OR, the bright lights, the razor-thin focus, it all feels like home. But just months later, Paul receives a devastating diagnosis: stage IV lung cancer. One day he's the one holding the scalpel. The next, he's grappling with scans that show his own body betraying him. That wrenching blur between saving life and fearing death. Paul often described brain surgery as peeling back layers of an onion, every slice revealing another delicate, fragile layer beneath. Neurosurgery teaches you how identity is more than skin deep, and how each decision can ripple across the whole person. This surgical metaphor shapes his understanding of life: complex, layered, and vulnerable, yet resilient under pressure. What happens when the healer's image fractures? Paul had spent years mastering techniques to prolong and preserve life. Now, facing his limits, he realized something paradoxical. Knowing when to let go, recognizing fragility, brings a new kind of strength. This pain led him to ask, does our identity hinge on control or on how we confront loss? Paul wasn't just fighting cancer. He was wrestling with a giant. What really makes life worth living? Let's unpack how he tried to answer that in the shadow of death. As a fresh med student, Paul was obsessed with one burning question he shared with his mentor. If all organisms die, what makes a life virtuous, meaningful? This was no idle musing. It coursed through his veins. The thrill of surgery wasn't enough. He wanted a why, a reason to justify all the sacrifice and struggle. His idealism fueled years of study and late nights under harsh fluorescent lights. Studying the brain, the literal seat of identity, Paul treated patients whose very sense of self was vanishing in front of him. To him, the brain was a cosmos, fragile yet bursting with stories and memories that make us human. This magnified the urgency. If your brain alters, who are you anymore? Life's worth seemed tangled in neurons and decisions. Facing death, Paul's mind returned again and again to Samuel Beckett's haunting line: "I can't go on. I'll go on." Those words crystallized the paradox of human resilience. Despite bleak odds, the decision to continue living, loving, and creating new meaning became his rebellious, magnificent act. Cancer flipped Paul's world upside down. Suddenly, he's on the other side of care. What does it feel like to trade expertise for vulnerability? Let's explore. In clinic rooms filled with beeping monitors and antiseptic smells, Paul found himself receiving treatments, not giving them. His colleagues became strangers offering sympathy rather than advice. An MRI wasn't a diagnostic tool anymore, but a haunting mirror revealing tumor spread. He grappled with the raw vulnerability of being examined, declared terminal, and subjected to medicine's cold machines. Paul described the emotional weight as a suffocating fog, like walking a tightrope while the ground disappears beneath your feet. Loss of control was the cruelest thief. The revered neurosurgeon was reduced to a patient waiting for markers, stats, and prognosis updates. Yet, within this surrender emerged a sharper focus on what truly mattered. Stripped of clinical armor, Paul discovered that identity isn't just what you do, but who you love and how you live. He embraced new roles, a husband, soon a father, that transformed his perception of legacy. The white coat no longer defined him. It was the breath between moments that did. Even as death loomed, Paul's greatest transformation came with new life. Becoming a father reshaped everything. Hope, fear, and meaning intertwined in unexpected ways. In the hospital room, after months of chemotherapy and scans, Paul held his newborn daughter Katie for the first time. The tiny fingers clutching his own sparked a rush of clarity. Here was a new life unfolding just as his own might close. Those quiet moments, filled with soft coos and fragile breaths, created a sharp contrast to the sterile war with cancer. Joy and despair collided. Fatherhood forced Paul to confront time like never before. Every minute felt borrowed, precious, and brutally finite. The hopes for Katie's future swirled with his own fading possibilities. This paradox made him cherish the mundane, diapers, bedtime stories, transforming ordinary acts into acts of profound meaning and rebellion against death's certainty. Through Katie, Paul realized legacy isn't about fame or achievement. It's about passing forward love, values, and presence. Even as his breath grew shallow, he was writing a story beyond his own life, proving that meaning can bloom at the edge of loss. Paul's final insight, echoing Beckett's words, teaches us about stubborn hope. Why do we keep going when everything feels lost? This is the heart of his message. In his final months, Paul wrote tirelessly, even as illness sapped his strength. Choosing to live fully meant every breath mattered. Instead of slipping into despair, he carved out meaning in each decision, writing, loving, parenting, intentionally holding reality and hope side by side. This fierce will to engage with life's richness reshaped his suffering into a gift to others. Paul saw mortality not as an end but a lens that sharpened life's colors. Like autumn leaves glowing brighter before falling, recognizing death gives life urgency and beauty. This clarity freed him from trivial worries, focusing energy on what truly counts: relationships, truth, and presence. His mantra, "I can't go on, I'll go on," captures the audacity of hope, not naive optimism but a stubborn refusal to surrender meaning. In embracing his fate, Paul became not a tragic victim but a brave witness to life's fragile, luminous power. Remember that opening scene, Paul in the operating room, steady hands, razor focus, and now the full arc. A young surgeon turned patient, new father, philosopher of mortality. His story teaches us that life's meaning isn't a distant summit but the breath between moments. So here's a radical thought. Next time you feel small or stuck, ask yourself, what if every choice, every breath is a chance to go on? Try pausing right now, tuning into your breath and letting your values guide you forward. Life worth living isn't waiting. It's made in these fleeting seconds. Subscribe for more book summaries like this one.